Debbie. Thank you to all of the VetPartner leadership for creating Hot Rocks and being here, and especially thanks to Elizabeth. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll give that to Clint.
What's the right button?
And a big thanks to all of our sponsors, so hugely important. And we are here today to talk about Return for Care, which is a shelter veterinary relationship program. And we're going to show you how it's good for all parties involved. It's good for veterinary practices, it's good for shelters, it's good for adopters, it's good for pets, especially cats. So thanks.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest reasons we're here is working in technology and working with vets is we realize that a lot of people in the veterinary industry, regardless of what your specific specialty is that you're very empathetic. And so a lot of times our goal is to help facilitate animals that they need our help and are kind of helpless. And so Return for Care is kind of a way to do that. And as a technology partner, we're kind of leveraging to help make that happen.
Yeah, our why is really about our empathy. And just as veterinarians are empathetic, pet owners and adopters and shelter individuals are also very emotionally driven. So in addition to that, we know that millennials are highly cause-driven and want to relate to people with cause and companies with cause that support their community. So that's what we're going to show you about. And think about this relationship as a stream of new patients coming to your practice, and also what you'll get to do is participate in some fun events. So that's good. But the potential for really strong relationships can be built through Return for Care. And this presentation will show you how that's been done in various communities. And it's all about pets, right?
Yeah. So Jane and I are going to show you our amazing acting skills when we put this little skit together for you.
Yeah.
So hi, Dr. Jane. This is my cat, Snoop Cat. He's got really red eyes, and he's sneezing a lot. Maybe too much catnip, I'm not sure.
He is so adorable. Well, thank you for coming. I'm so glad you selected us from when you adopted Snoop Cat at the Dumb Friends League in Denver. So
yeah, well, they kind of just put me with you, and they said you were a trusted veterinarian and that I should come to you. So here's Snoop. I mean, I'm not sure what we can do with him.
Oh, well, we'll take good care of him. Thank you so much. I see this red eye. It's probably just from a cold. And you know what? We're going to take care of him. And in fact, if he needs care up to $250 for this shelter-related illness, since you brought him right away, we're going to do that. So let's not make you have to take him back to the shelter. We'll take care of him, and we'll go from there.
Oh, that's amazing. You're my Snoop's Dr. Dre.
Yeah. So back up a slide.
Oops.
Catalyst Connection is a program that started as a toolkit and an opportunity for shelters and veterinarians to work together in their community through adopted cats and dogs. And with that, we piloted in 3 different communities where at point of adoption, a veterinarian was selected. The veterinarian had opted in for a free exam only in these particular pilots. And in the 3 U.S. cities that we piloted, we ranged from about a 20% went for that free exam all the way up to more than 50% in some cases. And that was only manually measured by outcomes reporting requested of the veterinary practices. But we were really happy about that. And our hypothesis, what happens is at point of adoption, choose a veterinarian. The veterinarian is messaged, you have a new patient. And by the way, here are the new health records, which is a huge pain point, we know, for that first visit to a veterinary practice. And our hypothesis at Catalyst Council was that more cats are going to be seen. But this is a species agnostic plan. And so now we've actually grown this into having an automated technology platform called Catalyst Connection that takes data from the adoption agency, from usually shelters, from the major shelter softwares, and then messages the veterinarian, extracts the outcome data from the veterinary side, and then we marry it in the middle to get those measurements. So at the same time Catalyst Connection was being piloted manually, free exam, the Colorado VMA and area of Denver veterinarians right here, many of you know them, had a Healthy New Pet Guide, free exam only. A booklet with a list, here are 50, 80, however many veterinarians will give a free exam. And what happened in that manual process is that nobody measures it. Nobody measured it. They don't know how many free exams they gave. They don't know what the return on the investment was. And it was the idea of VetPartners member Ralph Johnson, who is also the CEO of Veterinary Medical Association Executives and in other meetings today. But Ralph and the Colorado VMA and partners at Dumb Friends League here in Denver decided to pilot Return for Care. Free exam, plus up to $250 of free post-adoption veterinary care in one shelter in Douglas County, south of here, 10 area veterinarians. And that was really a perfect opportunity for Catalyst Council and CVMA to work together, and that's what's happening right now. What'd I miss?
I think it was good.
Nothing?
You got the 250, so you're on track.
Okay. So the Return for Care outcomes are proven, and what we found through the program, I'm going to give you some data points shortly, but we found that by connecting the adopter and the veterinarian, we're enhancing pet health and welfare. We're also minimizing the uncertainty of the pet adopter about cost, about post-adoption veterinary care if there's a minor shelter-related illness. Connecting the adopter with the veterinarian before the first visit has proven to be very efficient. And it also allows shelters that have very limited resources in many communities to repurpose any of the expenditures that they would have to provide for post-adoption care for Snoop with a cold or puppy with a cough, for those things. And they can then put more resources into caring for their community without having to take the adopter back to the shelter and all of that. And finally, what we've learned is that it's a collaborative business model where, shelters really do provide the largest continuous stream of new patients to veterinarians, and the more we recognize that and build those relationships, the better that's going to be. So it's a win for pets, it's a win for communities, it's a win for veterinarians, it's a win for shelters. So big wins. And then some data points from this Return for Care pilot in Douglas County collected over a couple of years. What we found was that 85% of eligible adopters selected a veterinarian at the time of adoption. 55%, more than half of those adopters followed through with their exam and the initial visit post-adoption. So a high rate of the adopter engagement. And then only 11% of those pets that were seen needed post-adoption veterinary care. And to give you an idea of numbers, across those 10 practices, their value of the services that they donated was $13,000 and $500 and change cumulatively across all of those adopted pets. And what that did was show us that the average cost of new patient acquisition, which I mentioned yesterday, of only, I should add, $12.90. And I'll put a quick question out to the audience. Who has at the tip of their hands what some other acquisition of new patient costs are? Come on, I know some of you corporate people will know. You might not share, but that's good. Okay, but $12.90 to get a new patient, it's amazing. Beyond giving that value, incrementally across all 10 practices, the return on the investment was almost $84,000. And when you average that across all the adopted patients, that's a net increase in revenue of $80 plus change per pet. And then when you subtract the cost for acquisition, the average net revenue for every pet is $67.23. So we proved that that's a good business model. And furthermore, when asking adopters through that program what they thought of the veterinarian that they selected, 4 out of 5 said yes, that they were going to remain with the veterinarian that they selected and were paired with at the point of adoption. So when you think about healthy pets being bonded with healthy practices and the bond, I had an epiphany last night as I thought about the veterinary, the VCPR. We all say the VCPR, the veterinary client-patient relationship. Well, think about it in the context of the veterinary client-patient bond, because we are all about the emotion and the bond, and we care. So the key takeaways from the CVMA pilot was that the mechanics of the program, choose a veterinarian, go for the care, provide the care, are very manageable. We've shown that it's a beneficial business model. But we also know in order to grow this, to scale it not only in, in that community, in this community, but nationally, that it has to be automated. So that's where Catalyst Connection comes into play, and automation is the key.
So from an automation standpoint, that's kind of where I'll talk a little bit about. So who here has seen the TV show Shark Tank? Anybody? All right, a lot of us, all right. Joe and I were recently at a leading technology summit in Austin, and one of the keynote speakers there was Robert Herjavec, or however you pronounce his last name. And when he was asked, what do you think is going to be something that's going to change the global landscape of technology, his answer was, at some point, the internet will always be on. So no matter where you are, no matter where you are in the globe, the internet will always be on. You'll always be connected. So what's fascinating is that we leave, we come home, I pick up my phone to call my brother-in-law, and to my surprise, my 4-year-old nephew answers instead, right? And I'm like, oh, hey, Lincoln, is your dad around? Did you steal his phone? And his response to me was, oh, no. I saw that you were calling, so I grabbed the iPad so I could talk to you first. But what's fascinating about that is that he's 4 years old, right? And he already knows that if his dad says that Uncle CJ's calling, he can run to another device in the house and is smart enough and has used technology enough to know that he can hijack that phone call on the iPad so he can talk to Uncle CJ first, right? So when we think about that is there's all these pieces of technology that are always on. And what's fascinating is most vets think that their day-to-day workflow really isn't impacted by technology. But if you were to remove the x-ray machine or if you were to remove the receptionist machine, it would be catastrophic. It would be a major disaster. It would be a major impact to their workflow. But if I was to walk in and say, hey, we're doing this great return for care program, we're going to install this data connector that's going to sync to the cloud, and then the shelter's data is going to sync to the cloud, they're going to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't want to be involved in this new technology. There's a lot of weird things. What's going on with my data? And so us as technology partners with Return for Care, we step in and maybe ask them something to show them that this sort of technology is already always on in their normal day-to-day life. So I might ask them, well, how do you buy your plane tickets? Oh, well, I open my app and I open the Expedia app, I buy my plane ticket. Well, why do you use the app? Well, because then I can just bypass the ticket window. I bring my carry-on, I go straight to the gate, and I get straight on the plane. And so you're like, well, so essentially Expedia is sharing your information with the carrier, the airline carrier, so that you can walk straight onto the plane. And it saves both you and the airline carrier time, so you can get straight onto their plane. And then basically, with Return for Care, we're doing the same thing. We're allowing the adopter to bypass that check-in gate and go straight onto your plane so you can take them on this great client relationship journey. And at that point, once they realize that this really isn't new technology, it's just maybe the vet space is a little slow to adopt, then it starts to make more sense. And so the great thing about Return for Care is that they see this need to leverage some of these technologies that are available in other markets and other workplaces to help facilitate better care for adopted pets and kind of remove that barrier to entry. So essentially, we're just building relationships one rescue at a time through automation. And here's an example of the Catalyst Connection web portal. So veterinarians can log in and they can see how many pets they've received or patients they've received from X clinic. What's the shelter that's kind of referring them the most. They can go in and then see what their average cost per acquisition is. So how much of the $250 of free care have I given? How much actual dollar value have I given away? And then what does that equal as far as acquiring that pet? And then they can kind of make a business decision and compare that to some of their other avenues. So I think that is it. Any questions?
Yeah, I mean, if we think about where we started, veterinarians are empathetic people, and so are shelters, and so are pet adopters. And we have a really strong relationship that is going to be built through technology with the help of partners, and cats are going to benefit. So thank you very much.